At ngayon umaga, Carla, ay pinaunlakan tayo ng isang napaka-espesyal na panauhin para ikwento sa atin ang kanyang naging experience so far. No? Actually, Carla, nag-umpisa ang guest natin mula sa local politics, tapos naging very prominent siya noong nakaraang 15th Congress as the Senior Deputy Majority Floor Leader ng House of Representatives, at ngayon ay DOH Undersecretary Janette Garin. Magandang umaga, Usec.
Magandang umaga. Good morning.
Ma'am, siguro umpisahan muna natin. Isa doon sa mga naging malakas na posisyon ninyo noong nakaraang kongreso ay tungkol sa RH bill. You were really part of the strongest advocates ng RH law na ngayon. Ngayon, anong tingin ninyo na nasa Supreme Court siya at naka-status quo anti-order siya?
Well, nakakalungkot yun, lalo na yung indefinite status quo anti-order. But we're looking forward to the fact na alam naman po ng ating mga maestrado, alam naman po ng ating Supreme Court justices that this law is really needed by our people. And with a with the majority support, 7 out of 10 Filipinos have been continuously supportive of this bill. At ando dun rin po yung ingay ng sambayan ng Pilipino. Naniniwala po kami na talagang at the end of the day, the Supreme Court will say na ito po talagang para sa tao. This is extremely constitutional and wala pong immoral, wala pong illegal pagka ikaw ay naghangad na mabigyan ng mas magaan at mas maiangat yung antas ng pamumuhay ng bawat pamilyang Pilipino.
Okay.
And aside from yung RH nga, let's talk about PhilHealth also, since this was a big part of yung SONA rin. It was really called out. Kasi yun nga, ang laki na ng improvement na nakikita, ang dami nang naka-enroll sa programa. So what can you say about this? Parang ma-achieve ba natin yung goal na lahat ng mga Pilipino ay magiging part na ng PhilHealth?
Well, basically, if we achieve universal healthcare, malaking bagay po. Lalo na yung no billing na pagkalabas ng pasyente, pag ikaw ay indigent, babayaran. The utilization of PhilHealth is also one of the major thrusts of the government. Kasi kung titingnan po natin sa PhilHealth, the private hospitals, the utilization is nasa 38 to 40%. But on the side of the government hospitals, yung utilization is somewhere around 6 to 8%. Ibig po natin sabihin, pagka ikaw ay hospital na gobyerno, hindi naman po lahat, but almost all, walang drive na mag-reimburse sa PhilHealth, where in fact, it would entail millions of pesos that you can plow back sa mahihirap. Ito naman, ginagawa ng private hospital. So, that's one thrust of the Department of Health now, under the leadership, of course, of Secretary Ona. Kasi naniniwala po yung departamento na sa matuwid na daan, dapat nga po may risk pooling mechanism, in this case, the Philippine Health Insurance. But then, hindi naman po pwedeng ando dun lahat. Dapat po binabalik mo sa tao, binabalik mo sa sambayan ng Pilipino yung serbisyo.
Undersecretary, ngayon ba ano yung mga pinaka-binabantayang sakit ng DOH? Kasi parang recently, no, merong lumabas na balita na pag-aaral na sa Pilipinas daw pala, Carla, ay parang every 3 hours merong isang tao nagkakaroon or isang Pilipino nagkakaroon ng HIV with the rate that we're going. Pero aside from this, Undersecretary, meron po bang iba pa na sakit?
Well, marami po. HIV is one of the problems because we're approaching the epidemic stage. Kung saan, dati-rati sinasabi wala. But if you're familiar with my personal interviews before, we never believed the figures. Kasi sa pananaw po namin, kaya siya hidden. Kaya siya hindi nakikita dahil wala pong mandatory testing. At the same time, the stigma is so much na natatakot yung taong magpa-check. Hindi naman po sila dapat pandirian, hindi po sila dapat itakwel. We should support them. We should make them feel that they're still part of the society because that's how you solve the problem. Hindi naman po siya nakakahawa unless you have sexual contact with an HIV-positive individual. So, yun po yung mga bagay. But then, if you really look at the total health burden of our society, malaking bagay po yung mga non-communicable diseases. We're talking about diabetes, hypertension, heart diseases, even psychiatric illnesses. No? Kung titingnan po natin yung ating pong non-communicable diseases, even cancer, ito po yung nakaka-deplete ng resources ng pamilya. So we focus on dengue, we focus yung mga of course, malaria na meron ang bagong lumalabas, no, yung chikungunya. Pero kung titingnan naman natin, medyo kalusot-lusot yan. But if you see the bulk of expense, kasi sa atin, kasi sa situation ngayon, 70 to 78% ng health expenditure is out of pocket. Ibig sabihin, karga ng isang Pilipino na pagka siya ay nagkasakit, 70 to 78% ng gastos niya ay sarili niyang pera. And the bulk, yung sakit, yung bigat ng ating non-communicable diseases, wherein yung iyong araw-araw na maintenance, or pagka ikaw ay nag-stroke, it's a lifetime expense. We also have renal diseases, we have cardiac diseases. Yung mga ito po ay talagang tinitingnan ng Department of Health, and patungo po sa matuwid na daan with the instructions of the President. Our good Secretary, Secretary Ona, has already paved way to identify preventive measures. We are now starting to focus on public health measures, public health advocacies. Para naman po habang ginagamot natin yung mga may sakit, tinitingnan po natin paano po mapaalam sa kanila yung tinatawag na healthy lifestyle. How do we advocate yung pong paano mo na habang lumalaki yung anak, habang lumalaki yung bata, alam nung nanay yung mga dapat ituro sa bata para yung attitude ng bata will be towards a healthy lifestyle.
Okay.
And Usec, aside from these public health measures, what are some of the other programs na binibigyan pansin ng DOH ngayon?
Well, DOH is really focusing on upgrading many of our health facilities. Kung dati-rati po ay yung ginagawa ng departamento is sa DOH retained hospitals lang, sa ngayon po, ang dami pong dina-download na programa para i-improve yung ating district hospitals and then putting up health centers. And the good secretary has also put forward his intention to hire more nurses and midwives para po yung backlog, no, kung sakasakaling wala mang doktor, meron pa rin first line of defense na may mapupuntahan yung tao. So ang dami ngayong health centers. In fact, for 2014, if my memory recalls me right, the budget on health facility enhancement is somewhere around 14 billion.
Okay. So, talaga namang makikita natin yung passion din, no, ni Undersecretary Garin para sa kalusugan sa bansa. And actually, interesting to dahil si Undersecretary Garin ay doktor, no, at politiko at the same time. I think this is a rare combination. No? Madalas abogado abogado tapos doon ka magiging politiko. And Undersecretary Garin, before noong nag-med school pa lang kayo, balita namin ay board member na rin kayo ng probinsya. Tama po ba, Undersecretary?
Yes.
And you were studying at the same time. How was it?
Well, it's challenging, but at the same time, it gives you a good drive. Kasi andun po yung namumulitika ka, syempre naghahanap buhay ka na ng konti. And then you go back to school, syempre takot ka dun, nag-absent ka, you're not able to take some of the quizzes. Ayaw mo naman ng special attention na mag-special exam ka kasi nahihiya ka. So it gives you a drive to strive harder. And talagang sabihin mo, aaralin ko to kasi medyo hina-absent ako dito, babawi ka. And in doing that, well, if nung naalala ko nga, sometimes looking back, sabi ko, ay natapos na pala. So, I do believe that every politician, once you enter politics, lalo na sa ating mga sangguniang kabataan, kasi andiyan yung programa ito, ang dami pong humihinto sa pag-aaral. Going into politics or going into public service is not an excuse to stop continuous education. Because if you continuously study, if you continuously learn, if you continuously yourself, mas malaking may tutulong mo sa sambayan ng Pilipino. You will be a better public servant if you are open to continuous education because there's no monopoly of knowledge.
Wala namang nangaasar sa inyo ng Usec na absent si Bukal.
Well, I see. Well, minsan, sometimes they make jokes about, but I started kasi hindi ko pinapaalam. When I took up my master's in business administration with specialization in health, sa Ateneo Graduate School of Business, I never told people that I was with the government. So when they asked me, sabi ko, nagala ako ng probinsya because I'm practicing there. Okay. But then when they started seeing me on TV because of the debate on syntaxes,
right,
and then RH, and then when somebody said, oh, that's Janette, siya yung maingay sa PhilHealth when she was presenting all these documents about fraud. So, dun medyo, sabi ko, medyo, I'm into politics. So, kung tingnan mo naman talaga, it's basically yourself being a student in the confines of a classroom, Tsaka dapat mag-adjust ka doon. Hindi pa pwede yung pag ando doon ka, isipin mo, naku, congressman ako, bukal ako. No, that's a no-no. You should always be able to adjust. Pag doon, talagang estudyante ka. Talagang gagawin mo lahat. Paglabas mo naman, then you do your obligations. One good thing that I had was possibly like, yung mga tao, the staff that I had, were people who were really willing to help me. And then when I went into MBA, I had this group of classmates. We were helping each other na pagka mag-election o sila naman yung bulk ng work, pagka wala naman election, tutodo naman ako. Probably one of the drives, because I was an academic scholar when I was in med school, so I had to maintain like this average. And then pag napasok ka na doon, talagang, syempre, pipilitin mo yung sarili mo na tapusin yun to please your parents. Kasi syempre, sasabihin nila, ba't ka namuliti ka? Ba't ka namuliti ka? It will distract your studies. So that drive probably pushed me to where I am now. That's why I'm telling the youth leaders, yung ating mga sangguniang kabataan members, maganda po talaga, even if you're in public service, keep on going to school, keep on striving that you finish your career. Because politics will always be temporary. Yung career mo is something that you can really bring, and it gives pride not only to your family, but your children as well.
Hey, Usec, since you are one of the strongest advocates nga ng RH law, ano ba, parang nakaka-affect ba ito sa life mo?
Well, I became the spokesperson of the bill during my first term. Kasi I've been an advocate, maski nung bukal pa ako. When I ran for re-election 2007, doon ako medyo ninervyos. To be honest, I was really very nervous because the group contacted somebody who had the money. He was a retired general, mataas ang pwesto, malawak ang hinahawakang grupo, and they were using the pulpit almost every day, nearing election. Nung medyo matagal-tagal pa yung election, every Sunday, ando doon ka sa pulpito, you're being mentioned. Worst is, people do not understand reproductive health. Kasi medyo foreign sounding. They understood family planning, but reproductive health was being coined as abortion, euthanasia, and that there was this, if you remember, there was this incident in Switzerland na parang nag-ano ng euthanasia yung isang doktor, and it was legal, and it was all over CNN, so people were starting to say, oh, that's the bill of Janette. So, ang hirap i-explain sa baba, and admittedly, during elections, masyadong mahal yung kumuha ng black time to explain all of this. So, talagang ninervyos ako. But, again, it gave me the matalo, di matalo, as long as I know I'm doing the right thing. So, I started going around, telling the people that what I'm doing is good. Probably my advantage is that I've been practicing there for the past 6 years before this issue came out. And I've delivered a lot of babies, so nobody would believe that I would legalize abortion. And, talagang manghihina yung loob mo. But at the end of the election, nagulat ako because here is an opponent of mine who's very strong, well-supported, well-oiled. Nung dumating yung results, it was beyond my expectation. Yung lamang ko was even more than his votes. Like, I'm not sure, but I had like more than 100,000 votes. He had 40,000.
Okay.
So nakita ko na yung tao naman pala, hindi naman ganun na madaling maniwala. We have an educated electorate. And mind you, modesty aside, it gave me the surprise of my life when I ran for my third term, kasi that was my second term. Sa third term, I was surprised na nakayanan nga na maging unopposed ako. The first in the history of Southern Iloilo. Kasi political history na walang kalaban yung congressional candidate. And this happened 2010, after this very heavy debate on reproductive health. Doon ko nakita na yung tao pala, if you really do good, and if you display extreme political will, even if you do not have the resources that they are expecting, they will still support you. And doon pa rin yung at the end of at the tip of their pen, they will vote for somebody whom they believe has displayed extreme political will, who will be fighting for them, who will be supporting them, and who is really there to do real public service.
And after your third term, Usec ay ngayon nasa executive na kayo. Actually, iniisip ko rin, Usec, bakit nga ba executive yung napili ninyo or pinili ninyong hindi muna tumakbo nitong nakaraang eleksyon?
Well, my term expired. I was supposed to run for a local post. And then before the filing, I got an invitation from the executive.
All right.
Although hindi pa finally napag-usapan because 3 options were being considered, nakita ko naman na, well, politics is good, public office is good, but sometimes it's more rewarding to be in the executive because you can make a difference as a legislator. You can also make a difference as being part of the executive, especially if it's in the field of my career. Sabi ko, then why don't I try this? Para yung mga naplano ko before, dito talagang makasali ako sa implementation.
Okay, and how has it been so far, Usec?
Well, it's challenging. You learn a lot. You make new friends. The most difficult part is memorizing who is this, coinciding the name with the face. Because I had that problem also when I became senior deputy majority leader, that I had to know each congressman. Minsan nakalimutan mo sino nga ba ito, sino. It's the same thing in the department. But more so, ando dun kasi, I don't know how it happens, but on a personal point of view, minsan kasi pag politika ka, ando dun yung stigma na parang hindi ka ganun kadali makatrabaho. Precisely, I decided to pursue my medical career kasi nung napunta ako sa pamumulitika, when I go out of the confines of my offices, I realized na hindi ganun ka-rewarding. Pagka tinanong ka, ano bang trabaho mo? Ako po politiko. Medyo off ka agad yun sa iba, no? But then when I say na ako isang doktor, talagang they look at as somebody who will really give real service. And this is one thing that I would also like to twist, na mabigyan ng magandang pananaw na ang dami pong politicians who are really good in public service. And of course, I'm now trying to initiate that relationship, bridging politicians, former colleagues, former friends to the executive.
Hey, alam mo, JC, this talk with Usec has been very inspiring kasi parang nakikita mo na whatever you decide to do, parang you don't have to fear na wala akong time to do this or hindi ko kaya gawin yan sabay kasi talagang you should really just go for it if you have
Just don't think about, wag mong isipin na naku, ang dami ko pang gagawin. It's like RHBL, the syntaxes, cheaper medicines law. Pag sinabi mo, naku, ang daming mag-o-object, naku, baka magkaroon ng lobby fund against us. If you keep on thinking about the negativities of things, it will be very difficult to achieve your goal. So just keep on going and put your goal on mind, matatapos rin yun.
Okay, maraming salamat, Undersecretary. Very inspiring, no? Just keep on going. Salamat, Undersecretary Janette Garin from the Department of Health.